The voice of doubt is paralyzing your faith. Today, we will learn to silence it, not by shouting over it, but by listening to the divine truth within you. By the end of our time together, you'll understand that the peace and power you crave have always resided within, waiting for you to claim them, unshaken by the world's shifting sands. So many of us, perhaps you right now, walk through life holding out an invisible cup, constantly seeking to fill it with validation from others. We yearn for their applause, their approval, their attention, believing that true worth, confidence, and joy are commodities to be earned from external sources. We hand over the remote control of our inner peace, letting every social media comment, every shifting relationship, every unspoken expectation dictate our emotional state. This isn't just a fleeting feeling. It's a deep-seated spiritual struggle, a quiet erosion of the inherent value God has already gifted us. We become like a ship tossed on stormy seas, not because the sea is inherently chaotic, but because our anchor is tied to a buoy floating on the surface rather than rooted deeply in the seabed. This relentless pursuit of external affirmation leaves us perpetually tired, drained, and ultimately unfulfilled. It's a cycle that promises completion but delivers only fleeting highs, followed by crushing lows. But what if I told you that the very source of what you're seeking is already within you, placed there by a loving creator, waiting to be unearthed? Imagine a life where your value isn't debated by others, where your peace isn't dependent on their mood, and your joy isn't a reaction to applause, but a wellspring bubbling up from your very core. This isn't a dream, it's your divine inheritance. If you've ever felt this struggle of being tossed by the opinions of others, or if you've been caught in the cycle of seeking external validation, share your story or a moment of breakthrough in the comments below. Let's build a community of transparent strength, reminding each other that we are not alone on this journey. One of the greatest obstacles we face on this path to inner strength is the fear of solitude, the discomfort of doing things alone, or the perceived lack of support. We often mistake solitude for loneliness, viewing it as a void that must be filled by constant connection or external noise. Consider James, a gifted musician in his late 20s, who always performed with a band, always needed the energy of a crowd to feel truly alive on stage. He wrote beautiful songs, but he never truly finished any of them alone. He relied on the feedback of his bandmates for every chord, every lyric, every decision. The thought of sitting alone in his studio, facing his own creative process without immediate affirmation, filled him with dread. He found himself procrastinating, scrolling on his phone or seeking out distractions, all because the silence felt too loud, too empty. This isn't just about music. It's about any endeavor where we hesitate to step forward because we lack a cheering section. The principle of overcoming this is simple yet profound. True resilience is forged in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you show up for yourself, even when scared or unsupported. It's in those solitary acts of commitment, whether it's writing that first paragraph, starting that new workout routine, or simply sitting in quiet reflection, that you build an inner muscle of self-trust. James eventually forced himself to spend an hour a day in his studio alone, not to write, but just to be with his instrument. Slowly, the discomfort faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. He realized that the wellspring of his creativity wasn't in the crowd's applause, but in the depths of his own spirit. He began to finish songs, not for the validation of others, but because they felt right to him. This new strength, born in solitude, became the foundation for his most authentic work. It's a surprising revelation. The very enemy we avoid, solitude, is often the very ground where our most profound growth occurs. Another significant hurdle on this journey is the discomfort of setting boundaries, especially with those closest to us. We often prioritize avoiding conflict or maintaining toxic connections over protecting our own mental and emotional well-being. There's a subtle but powerful lie we often believe, that saying no to someone else means saying no to love, or that setting limits makes us selfish. We fear disappointing others, or worse, losing their affection and approval. Sarah, a dedicated nurse in her mid-40s, always put everyone else's needs before her own. Her sister, while loving, was emotionally draining, constantly calling with crises and expecting Sarah to drop everything. Sarah felt guilty saying no, even when she was exhausted, believing it was her duty to always be available. This left her perpetually depleted, with little energy for her own family or her own spiritual practice. The surprising revelation here is that boundaries are not walls built to keep people out. They are sacred fences built to protect the garden of your soul. They are an act of self-love, and paradoxically, they are also an act of true love for others, because they allow you to show up as your authentic, healthy self, rather than a resentful, depleted version.
When you say no to something that drains you, you are saying yes to your peace, your purpose, and ultimately, your capacity to love more fully. For Sarah, this meant a difficult conversation with her sister, explaining that while she loved
her, she needed to set specific times for calls and could no longer be on call 24/7. The initial discomfort was immense, but as she held firm, she found her energy returning. She realized that by protecting her peace, she was not only honoring herself, but also teaching others how to respect her. This practical application of boundaries isn't about being unloving. It's about cultivating a sacred space within where your spirit can thrive, unburdened by the constant demands of external expectations. This journey reaches a pivotal point when we truly grasp a central biblical truth. Our worth is not earned, it is inherent. It is a divine gift, woven into the very fabric of our being from the moment of creation. The world, with its endless metrics of success, beauty, and achievement, constantly whispers a different narrative. You are only as good as what you do, what you have, or who approves of you. But God's whisper is profoundly different. Psalm 139:14 reminds us, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well." This isn't just a nice verse. It's a declaration of your unshakable identity. You are wonderfully made, not wonderfully earning. Your worth is not based on your performance, your popularity, or your perceived perfection. It is rooted in the fact that you are a beloved child of God. This understanding sparks an incredible inner transformation. The focus shifts from desperately trying to accumulate external validation to simply resting in the truth of who you already are. It means releasing the burden of constantly proving yourself, and instead stepping into the freedom of simply being. Imagine the relief of no longer needing to chase attention, no longer needing to perform for approval. This truth liberates us from the exhausting cycle of seeking external validation. It's like discovering that the treasure you've been digging for in distant lands was buried in your own backyard all along. This isn't a passive acceptance. It's an active embrace of a divine reality. It's a profound spiritual turning point where you stop looking outward for what can only be found within. Gifted by grace. This shift in perspective, from seeking external validation to unearthing your inherent worth, changes everything. It's like putting on a new pair of glasses and suddenly seeing the world and yourself with crystal clarity. No longer are you a leaf blown by every gust of opinion. You become a mighty oak, rooted deeply in the rich soil of your divine identity. Consider Mark, a retired teacher in his early 60s, who spent his whole life seeking praise, whether from his students, his colleagues, or his family. He was a kind man, but his joy was often fleeting, dependent on the last compliment he received. When life slowed down in retirement and the daily affirmations dwindled, he found himself feeling adrift, even depressed. He realized he had built his entire sense of self on the shifting sands of external applause. It was only when he began to truly understand that his worth was not in his performance, but in his being, in his simple existence as a child of God, that his perspective truly transformed. He started to cultivate authentic joy, not by chasing attention, but by focusing on activities that genuinely excited him. Tending his garden, volunteering at a local shelter, and spending quiet time in prayer. He found a deep, abiding peace that wasn't dependent on how many thank you notes he received or how many people acknowledged his efforts. This powerful testimony applies expansively to every area of our lives. When your worth is unshakable, cultivated from within, you are free to pursue your goals, your passions, and your purpose with an unwavering focus. You no longer need to dilute your vision to please others, nor do you need to shrink yourself to fit into their expectations. You become free to be fully, authentically you, living a life that reflects the unique design God has for you. So, how do we practically cultivate this unshakable foundation and live from a place of inherent worth? It begins with a few intentional steps. First, develop tunnel vision for your personal goals and your divine vision. This means consistently acting in alignment with your values, even when the opinions, criticisms, or expectations of others clash with your path. It requires discernment, listening to the quiet voice of your spirit rather than the noisy clamor of the crowd. Second, embrace solitude as a practice, not a punishment. Dedicate time each day to simply be with yourself, with God, without external distractions. This could be a few minutes of quiet prayer, a walk in nature, or simply sitting in silence. It's in these moments that you can truly hear your inner voice, connect with divine wisdom, and build the resilience that comes from knowing you are capable of navigating your journey independently. Third, prioritize consistency over intensity. Growth often happens in silence and through consistent daily habits, even when you feel alone, unmotivated, or unheard. It's the steady drip of water that carves stone, not a sudden flood. Push forward through doubt and discomfort, knowing that each small, consistent step is building an unshakable foundation within you. A renewed vision for your life emerges. From this practice, a life where you are not defined by what others think of you, but by the divine truth of who you are. This isn't about isolating yourself. It's about purifying your motivations, ensuring that your actions spring from a place of purpose and peace, not from a desperate need for external approval. It is an invitation to change, to step into the fullness of the life God intended for you. This journey of radical self-reliance, rooted in your divine identity, is a lifelong process, not a destination. It's a constant return to the truth that your worth is inherent, your peace is internal, and your joy is a wellspring. The vision of your future, when you truly embrace this, is one of profound freedom and impact. Imagine yourself, no longer swayed by every shifting opinion, no longer drained by toxic connections, no longer chasing fleeting external validation. Instead, you are a person of deep conviction, radiating a quiet confidence that draws others in. Not because you demand attention, but because you embody the peace you have cultivated within. You become a beacon of hope, inspiring others to find their own internal anchors. This isn't just about personal well-being. It's about fulfilling the unique purpose God has placed on your heart. When you are rooted, you are empowered to serve, to create, to love, and to lead in ways that are authentic and truly impactful. Your life becomes a testament to the power of God working from the inside out. So, step forward into this truth. Claim your unshakable worth, not as a declaration to the world, but as a deep, abiding truth within your spirit. Let your actions flow from this place of inner strength and divine alignment. This journey isn't just about you. It's about the ripple effect of a life fully lived, rooted in divine truth, impacting every person you encounter. We are here, walking alongside you, cheering you on. If this message resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it today. And please, share your thoughts on how this journey of inner strength is unfolding in your own life. Your story could be the very inspiration someone else needs.